Today, we're diving into one of the most complex and honestly misunderstood parts of being human, traumatic memory. Why does it feel so radically different from all our other memories? How does it get locked away, only to come roaring back years later? Let's get into it. Welcome to MediByte. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secrets of how our minds and bodies deal with, and sometimes fracture, in the face of truly overwhelming events.
Okay, so to really get a handle on traumatic memory, we have to start with, well, normal memory. And the truth is, it's probably not what you think it is.
You know this feeling, right? You remember that family vacation one way, your brother remembers it completely differently? It's a super common experience, and that's because our memories are not perfect video recordings.
And that right there is the key. Our memories are narratives. They are stories we tell ourselves about our own lives. And over time, we edit them, we tweak them, we change the story to fit the person we are today.
A fascinating study really shows this in action. It followed Harvard men who fought in World War II. Now, when they were interviewed right after the war, their stories were just raw, horrific. But fast forward 45 years, for most of them, time had softened the edges, kind of bleaching the memories of their terror.
And this is the critical difference. For the men in the study who developed PTSD, their war memories didn't fade. They didn't soften at all. 45 years later, they were just as raw, just as vivid, as if they were frozen in time. This tells us that traumatic memory is playing by a completely different set of rules.
So what is that fundamental difference? Why does one type of memory evolve into a story, while the other stays stuck as this raw, present tense experience?
Here it is, the fundamental divide. A normal memory is a story we tell about the past. It has a beginning, a middle, and, crucially, an end. But a traumatic memory, it isn't a story at all. It's an experience that is constantly being relived, broken down into these sensory fragments, images, sounds, feelings that just refuse to stay in the past.
This quote right here absolutely nails it. Trauma doesn't get filed away neatly. Nope. It's stored as disorganized pieces, a flash of an image, a particular sound, a physical sensation in your gut. And those fragments, they are the building blocks of flashbacks. And brain scans actually show us why this is happening. During a flashback, key parts of your brain literally go offline. Broca's area, that's your speech center, it shuts down. This makes it almost impossible to put words to what's happening. The part of the brain that gives you a sense of time, it goes dark, so you lose that feeling of, that was then, this is now. And the thalamus, which is like the brain's filter for all your senses, it just gets totally overwhelmed. The result is you're not remembering the trauma, you are, for all intents and purposes, right back in it.
You know, this whole idea of a split memory system, it might sound new, but it's not. In fact, it's one of the founding concepts of modern psychiatry. Over a century ago, guys like Pierre Janet were looking at patients with what they called hysteria, and had this huge realization. At the core of all these mysterious physical symptoms was trauma. They started calling these memories pathogenic secrets, secrets that were literally trapping a person, forcing them to relive a past horror in the present moment.
And the core mechanism they figured out is something called dissociation. Think of it like the mind's emergency escape hatch. When an experience is just too much to bear, the mind splits it off to protect you. But those fragments, they don't just vanish. The emotions, the images, the physical feelings, they all take on a life of their own, totally disconnected from the main story.
Janet's patient, Elaine, is a perfect, if heartbreaking, example of this. Consciously, she had zero memory of her mother's traumatic death. She couldn't tell you the story, but several times a week, she was compelled to physically reenact her mother's final moments, down to the tiniest detail. The memory was there, but it wasn't in her head as a story. It was stored in her body, in her actions.
And Elaine's case really leads us to this profound truth. Trauma isn't just some ghost from the past that lives in your mind. It leaves a very real, physical imprint.
As the title of this landmark book says, the body keeps the score. The experience is literally etched into our physiology. The brain's alarm systems get rewired, stress hormones are on a hair trigger, and our whole relationship with our own physical self is just fundamentally changed.
So what does that actually feel like? Well, it means the body is constantly defending against a threat that isn't there anymore. It can show up as a chronic feeling of being unsafe in your own skin, a state of constant high alert, or even physical pain from muscles that are always tensed up. A lot of people also learn to just numb themselves, to cut off their awareness of what's going on inside their body, just as a way to cope.
So if the problem is that traumatic memory gets shattered into all these fragments, what's the solution? How does healing actually happen?
This quote really captures the way forward. See, the goal isn't to forget. That's not really possible. The goal is the exact opposite of dissociation. It's association. It's about carefully, safely gathering those cut-off fragments, the images, the feelings, the sensations, and weaving them back into the bigger story of a person's life.
At the end of the day, this is the goal: to help the brain finally reestablish that crucial boundary between the past and the present. It's about allowing the whole self, your mind, your brain, and your body, to finally understand that the danger is over and it's safe to live in the here and now.
This process of integration, it really poses the ultimate challenge, but it's also where the ultimate hope for recovery lies. It's about transforming a timeless, terrifying moment from something that's always happening into a memory that can finally take its proper place in the past. Understanding how memory works can be a huge first step toward healing. If this was helpful for you, please think about liking, sharing, and subscribing to MediByte for more deep dives into health topics like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.